Okay, hello everyone. First of all, we have to stop meeting like this. No, Moshe.
Yes, of course.
So I want to thank my family that this is Erev Pesach for them and they're working around this. So no doubt, as always, a chelik in the shir. So let me tell you what I heard to my good friend Rabbi Valmatcha Malach today. He said he called someone up and said to him, "So what are you doing in your house to pass the time?" He said, "No, he asked what to do." Really? He said, "Yeah." And by the way, his friend said to him, "I'm just wondering something. Yeah, what? How come, like, one company in the box of rice, there's 8,932 pieces, and in another box, there's like 8,644 pieces? So, see what you're doing with your time. Okay. So, here we are. We're home. And what a ness that the clock moves on, right? As the Shem Yisbarach, next year, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, hopefully it'll be Chodesh HaShishuas by Mekifos. It'll be the Zman HaGeula. Not only will we not be locked into our houses, we won't be locked into Galus. But whatever the Nesiyainis are for Erev Rosh Chodesh Nisan, okay, that passed already. Next. Now comes the next day in the sign. So isn't it a ness that the clock moves on? The sun comes up and goes down every single day, regardless of whatever goes on in the world. Sha'oin kanecha oila samid. The Heilige Rishna said we have to learn from the clock. There's a fire. The world's coming to an end. The clock keeps ticking, keeps ticking, keeps ticking. It doesn't stop. Time moves on. Time moves on. So you know what that means in a practical sense? It means that there's going to be a day after. Rabbi Sai, whatever you're going through now, concerns, worries, anxieties, financial, volcanoes. It's going to be a day after. It's going to be. You may have a little rubble to dig out of. There's going to be a day after. Don't worry about it. We've been there. We've done this as Yechidim. I just from speaking to different people, Moshe, some people were telling me they were making a lot of money today because they were selling different things that people need under the circumstances. I don't want to say specifics, and some people were saying, this is it, this is my season, and if I don't make money this season, I can't afford the rent, and I don't know what's going to be with my store. And we got to believe, we got to be mispal for people. You also have to believe that we're not going to leave this world. 1 cent less and 1 cent more. So, in other words, before you were born, it says, Tinig noilet, the kicker biyadon. What does that mean? A baby is born with the bread in his hands. Before we're born, the Eibishter knows how much money we're going to make in the course of our lives. The other Rebbeinu Yonim says it could depend on a shtadlis and what happens each Rosh Hashanah, how it breaks down. Fine. But there is a set amount. Just understand, there's a set amount how much you're going to leave for your kids to fight over. Okay? That set amount didn't change because of the virus. So relax. In the overall picture, relax. It's a stock market! My stocks! Trust me. It's only a matter of time before it won't make a difference. It's going to be back to where it was. But the Shemon Esrei you daven now, the benching you daven now, that's going to be forever. So today was a Yom Tefillah, and somebody told me in Eretz Yisrael, it was really beautiful, that the Shabbos alarms played the Avinu Malkeinu and everything else, and that you saw porches full of people. Not that you saw porches full of people in Haredi communities. You saw people that seemed totally unaffiliated, totally no shaychus to Yehadis. Everybody was standing there saying Avinu Malkeinu. Everybody was standing and davening. It was just an amazing thing to watch. You heard from different cities throughout the land. Moshe, go ahead. And Reb Shmuel. And a few thousand people. There we go. How many people do we have on Torah any time today? Close to?
Can't fill it in MetLife.
Can't fill it in MetLife. There we go. So suddenly there's an Avinu Malkeinu. Suddenly all these people are crying out to the Rebbeinu Shalom. So the famous story of Yankel Galinsky used to say that there was a man in his town, and this man was a communist. I mean, he went to sleep. Okay? He went to sleep, thanking God he's an atheist, and he wore red pajamas and red socks, and everything was red by him, the whole house. He was a communist, and he gave the shul such tzoros, and Rahman al-Islam, and then he got sick, and he called Rabbi Yankel over. Rabbi Yankel came to him, and he said, daven for me. He had a stomach ailment. The doctors didn't have a cure for it at that point, and Rabbi Yankel went out. He said, people say there's not enough Yiras Shamayim on the world. He says, sometimes I wonder if there's just not enough stomach aches on the world. Because given the level of stomach ache, everyone becomes a man. Everyone becomes a Yiras Shamayim. So I think that we've had our share of stomach aches. I think we're Yaitzer, Klal Yisrael, right now. Okay? we just have to remember that our capital Tillim counts. So did I read today that GM and Ford are going to be producing ventilators instead of making cars, because they can't produce cars now anyway, because they don't have enough workers, or they're not getting the parts from China. They're going to be making ventilators. They're going to somehow switch a car company to a company that makes respirators. You hear this? Very strange. I could just imagine a respirator being connected to a stretcher, and all of a sudden it's racing down the street. Beep! Oops, we forgot to. Oh no! Wait, there was one part of the machine we didn't. Oh no! I don't know. Thought it was funny, but I'm serious. That's what they said. They said that GM is going to be producing ventilators, and it's not funny. But can you imagine old pickup ventilators, convertible? I don't know how this is going to work. But I think that the lesson over here is that we all have to use our koiches and our emotions, and not to be stuck in who we are, but to apply ourselves to where the situation is. So when we did the thing with the Chavetz Chaim Heritage Foundation today, so I want to share something with you that Michael Rothschild said, and I think it's very profound, and it's negaya to all of us. This virus is I can't say it's unprecedented. I'm not a bucky in viruses. But it's just the way it passes. One person gives it to 50, and those 50 give it to another 50, and those 50 give it to another 50, and suddenly you have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, and you have unprecedented numbers. In a sense, that's really what Lashon Hara is, what Maitzi Shemra is. Now, there's Lashon Hara, and there's Maitzi Shemra. Lashon Hara is even if what you're saying is true. Maitzi Shemra is when you're saying something is not true, or as the nature of Lashon Hara is, it gets, it gets wings, and the story gets bigger and bigger and bigger. You said, that you heard the Rav's son stole the Sefer Torah. How does it go? And the whole story, how it started. Mashiach is in the street. Everyone comes running after him. Mashiach is in the street. Where, what, when? It all turned out, somebody got to the bottom of it. Somebody said, Mashiach is nas. My shoe is wet. And it became, Mashiach is in the gas. The whole town came running. But that's a good thing. But that's what Lashon Hara is. It takes on its own life, and it destroys people. Now, if somebody was Maitzi Shemra on you, meaning he spread rumors that are not true, so the halacha is that technically you're not mechuyev to be meichel. You're not obligated to be meichel. And the reason is because there's no way you can withdraw the damage. The famous mashal they say, imagine going up to the top of a skyscraper in Manhattan, and have to go on top of the Empire State Building in a windy day and shake a pillow full of feathers, over all of Manhattan and all over the East River and the Hudson River, over the Bronx. Now go get back every feather. The Maitzi Shemra, the damage that it does is almost impossible. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't be Michael. And that doesn't mean that we don't create unbelievable schusim for Michael. It just means, technically speaking. So he said like this, he quoted from the Tefillah Zaka, different sources. What's our response to what's going on? Imagine if everyone listening to this shir, okay, was Michael everyone who spoke Lashon Hara on it. Imagine, Moshe, if at this moment, I said, I am Michael every single person that ever spoke Lashon Hara on me. And you said you're Michael every single person that ever spoke Lashon Hara. And maybe, not to imagine, maybe we should say it. Can you imagine what type of schus that would generate in Shemayim? I mean, right outside, people are standing on porches and they're saying in Kippur Kod. That generates a schus. But can you imagine what schus that would generate in Shemayim? So I'm willing to give it a go, and whoever wants to join me can join me. So really we say it you're supposed to say it, this tefillah before Kriya Shema Lamita, but let's kind of do it together, okay? Rabbeinu Shalom, Hareini Michael, I am Michael, L'chal mi, anyone, shehichis, that got me angry, v'hiknit oisi, or that antagonized me, I shechata kenegdi, or sinned against me, bein begufi, whether it was in my body, he slapped me across the face, he punched me in the nose, he pulled a chair out for me because he thought I was sitting in his place in shul, he tripped me on my way up because he was scared I got shishi on him, whatever the case may be, how it works begufi, slipped on a toy that he left, I'm leichel. Whether it's with my money. I'm not getting into whether you have a right to collect your money or not, I'm talking about the human pain of it, okay? Your brother-in-law forced you to give him a loan, you know what, now, I'm leichel. Whatever happened, I'm leichel. Or whether somebody attacked my kavod. My boss said to me, well, it's a chesed that I'm just holding on to you, so don't ask me for a raise, and all of a sudden you're so humiliated that you can't imagine. And it could be the furthest thing from the truth. Right now, guess what, Hashem? I'm Michael. And then it says, Vayter bein b'chal ashali. and also in regard to everything that's mine. In regard to everything that's mine, we spoke about my goof, we spoke about my money, we spoke about my covet, what's left. And maybe after you're meichel people on your goof and your mammon and your covet, you realize there's a lot more in your life. I'm meichel everybody, bein ba'inus, whether they did it unintentionally. Intentionally. Unintentionally. More than unintentionally. They were forced to bein b'ratzin, whether they did it intentionally. Bein b'shayik, bein b'mezid. Bein b'dibur, whether they said something which was hurtful. Bein b'maisa, whether they physically did something. Bein b'gilgul zeh, bein b'gilgul acher. Because the Gra says that a lot of times, if I have a score to settle with you and I'm not meichel you, both of us have to come down to this world again in order that there's a chance encounter between the two of us. So that's so what we're saying here is bein begilgul zeh, bein begilgul acher. You know what? Do me a favor. It's traveling to you. See, traveling is very complicated today, especially borders are closed. And what I want to say is, and this is l'chol ben adam, to every human being. And the main thing is v'loi ye'onesh shum adam b'sibasi. I don't want anyone to be punished on my behalf, because what happens is if you're really angry at someone, and you're really cooking at someone, and you're not willing to believe that whatever's meant to happen is going to happen to Shemayim anyway, you could cause that person to be hurt, to be punished with Shemayim. And maybe in a conventional sense or in a secular sense, good, he got what he deserved. God does not like that.
It's 10 o'clock.
And what happens is, it says if you're Meiser Din on someone else, Hashem turns the tables and says, okay, let's look into your books now, see what you deserve. There was a very big maskell, a Moser, an Apikairis. He came to the Belzer Rav, Zecher Tzadik Levracha once. And the Rav told him, you better stop and do tshuva. He said, I have no intention of doing tshuva. So the Rav said to him, you won't live out the year. So he goes, I know, the Rebbe's curses are really brachais. So the Rebbe said, you're right. And the Rebbe turned to his gabbai and said, you curse him. His curses are real curses. Don't worry about it. This is who we are. The makar of the tefillah of Rabbeinu Shalom, which we're supposed to say every single night before Kriya Shema al Hamita, is a story that's brought down in the Zohar about someone that sat down for lunch on a nice, big, beautiful day. He was doing social distancing. There was no one around him except a snake. He didn't notice the snake. And as he finished eating and he benched and he got up to leave, two things happened. The stone that he was sitting on dislodged and came crashing down the mountain into 1,000,000,000 pieces. And also a snake that was about to bite him, a branch came off a tree and crushed the snake. He doesn't know a thing about this. And he keeps going. So I forgot who the Tana was. He chased after him. I said, did you realize what just happened to you? He says, no. What were you just sitting on? Where's that boulder? You notice this dead snake? Ooh, be careful with that. Yeah, I know. It almost killed you. What do you do? What schus did you have? So he said, the schus that I have. The schus that I have is that every single night I say, I'm Michael, anyone, please Hashem, I don't want to go to sleep being angry at anyone. So maybe if we go to sleep tonight and we say this to the Bnei Shalom, who knows? So there's the famous story, Reb Chaim Shmulevitz said, what saved the Mir? What saved the Mir Yeshiva? What saved the Mir Yeshiva? He was in the Mir, the Jordanian artillery was hitting them, the plaster was falling off the roof, the walls were shaking, and it was pretty scary. My father told me he was in the Vardik, the Altaf in the Vardik was making Havdalah, and a bomb hit the building. The room started to shake. Pieces of ceiling were crushing. People were screaming and yelling, diving for cover. He stood there and not a drop of wine spilled. So he was like, that was meant to happen, it's going to happen. That's a big madrega. So Chaim said, everyone started saying Vidi, it looked like it's all over. Another hit, and this building is caving in on them. And he says, Chaim Shmulevitz says, I saw it myself. A woman got up, famous story, and she said, Eibishter, what do you want from us after all we went through? You don't want to be Michael, your children? I'm Michael, everybody in my life, including my husband. She had a lot to be Michael, her husband, for. She came from a rich home. Her husband married her. He was abusive, stole all the money, left her without giving a get. She was left in a guna for the rest of her life. She had to do laundry to try to survive. And she said, she's Michael, her husband. Chaim Shmulevitz says, I promise you, at that moment, the artillery stopped. And suddenly, the Mir Yeshiva survived. We were all sure any second the building is caving in on us. Maybe that's too radical. Maybe under those circumstances, she should have never been Michael. Okay. So how's about if someone who did half that amount to you, or a quarter, or a tenth, or 100th? and willing to be meichel anything, how's about half a mechila, a commitment, one for another? You know the story about the two sisters that fought their entire life, and on her deathbed, she wanted to speak to her sister, come close, and she says, yes, we wasted our life, yes, come to me, Shefala, yes, and she leaned over, and she bit off a piece of her ear and said, ha, and died. So imagine these two ladies that come up to Shemai, right? Imagine the one that they're going to say, you just saved the Miri Yeshiva. You just saved the Miri Yeshiva! Imagine all the people learning in the Miri Yeshiva. All those, how many buses every single day? How many, all the years? All in her schus. Can you imagine her dividends in Olam Haba? Maybe this is the time for us to look at our lives and say it, and we all say it together. Because we don't know why we're here. We don't know. Famous story that a man came to the Baal Shem HaKadosh, and the Baal Shem Tov said to him, yeah, why are you here? He goes, they said I should come in. Need a bracha? I don't need your bracha. Money? I'm more wealthy than what you can even imagine. Children? Plenty. Home? I have everything I need. I just came by. I don't need your bracha. I'm not going to humiliate myself. So Hashem said, let me tell you a story. Fine, tell me a story. So he says, once there were two friends, bosom pals, Ruvain and Shimon. Of course they were Ruvain and Shimon. And Ruvain was, when they got married, each one said they made a contract with each other, regardless of what happens in the course of their lives, that they will back each other up. They'll always be friends. To make a long story short, Reuven loses all of his money, comes crying to Shimon. Shimon says, of course. Shimon takes him in, hugs him, gives him new clothes, and Shimon makes a cheshbon of all of his assets, takes off half, gives it to Reuven. While down the pike, this is a long Perche story, so I'll spare you the details. Tables reverse. And now Shimon is in trouble, and he comes to Reuven. Reuven! And Reuven says, Shimon, get out! Who are you? But you know what I did for you? You're nuts. I'm not nuts. And Shimon couldn't believe this happened to him. And Lamaisa, Shimon somehow was able to put the pieces back together, and he built up his wealth. And then again, Reuven, right? Gemara says Zuz. Money is called Zuz. Why is it called Zuz, Moshe? Says Zuz mizeh, goes from one person to the next. We see that now a lot. So, and Reuven comes running to Shimon again. He goes, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed. After what you did for me. He says, Reuven, forget it. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you regardless. And he helps him. This happens a couple of times. Each time, Reuven goes, nah, and Shimon keeps helping him. Then both of them pass away. They go up to Shemayim. And lack of Hakaras HaTayv, they don't like that. They hate Hakaras HaTayv. They hate a lack of Hakaras HaTayv in Shemayim. And they're schlepping off Reuven to a place where it's quite hot. And Shimon says, no, I'm Moichelim. Nah, can't be Moichelim up here. And Shimon says, you know what? I'm willing to come down to this world again, so he has an opportunity to make it up for me. Oh, thank you so much, Shimon. Don't thank me, okay? The two of them come down to this world. What should I tell you? They live here for 70 years. And Reuven, his name is not Reuven. Shimon, his name is not Shimon. But whatever the case may be, the Shimon comes knocking on Reuven's door, knocks on the door. Tzedakah. Get out! This is not the hours. You have no right to be here. Boom! Pushes him down, closes the door. He goes flying down the stairs. The Shemashim come running up. They said he died. Well, then drag his body away before I get into trouble. And this was his last chance. All these years, he came up here to knock for tzedakah so that Shimon should be able to receive him. Reuven, and look what happened. And everyone's looking at the Baal Shem Tov, why are you telling him the story? And then looking at this man, and then they see he's laying on the floor. What? Hatzalah! Fainted. He slammed the door on someone who came crashing down. So really, a lot simpler in this world. We just say, and this creates shmira. It's a big bracha. So, somebody who passed away now from the coronavirus, or things related to the coronavirus, was a yid by the name of Rabbi Avram Cohen, known as Rumi Cohen. It's almost a shudder. He was 91 years old. But did you ever read the book, The Youngest Partisan, Moshe? You ever read the book, The Youngest Partisan? He was a partisan during the war. This yid, Rabbi Avram Cohen, there'll be a lot more that's going to be written about him over.
Yeah, I know him.
You know him? Yeah. You know he passed away?
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday. What do you know about him? Did 50,000 bris milas. 50,000, they say, bris milas.
There's a story. Me and Binyamin, one day Binyamin Wallenstein calls me up.
Binyamin Wallenstein calls you up, yeah?
Moshe, we need you for a bris.
Moshe, we need you for a bris, yes.
And his neighbor, Shmiri, Russian guy, his friend, didn't want to make him do a bris for a very, very long time. He didn't want him to do a bris.
Yeah.
It was on that day he decided he wanted to do a bris. And,
from 1 second to the next.
From one day to the next, so Shmuel called Binyamin. Binyamin's like, no problem. They took him. They went to Bar Park. We made him a bris. The man was probably in his late 60s.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Okay.
He went into his office and he didn't wait. He was.
Wow. So he said he made close to. So it's an amazing story. He also wrote a sefer on bris milah. Very complicated halachas. It was many halachas in regard to the halachas of bris milah. In the book, The Youngest Partisan, it's a must-read if you have a stomach for it. So he writes there different things. He writes there how he was a yeshiva baruch and he was struggling for a place to find shelter, and he had run away from one place to the other where the Germans had already sent everyone. And he came to a certain yeshiva, and in this yeshiva, the rabbi said to him, I think we've just mentioned the story not long ago, the rabbi said to him, you know the answer to this question? So he said, yeah, that's not a good enough answer. You don't belong in this yeshiva. You're not on the same level. Get out. He came to him afterwards, what are you out of your mind? You're throwing me out on the street. The Germans are going to send me away. He goes, I didn't realize that you ran away from a different part of the country. I didn't realize where you're coming from. If the Germans catch us, we're sheltering you, will all die. You ever did have a road date. Get out. I just used that as a ruse, as an excuse. So he left. He said he came to the yeshiva of the Papa Ruv, and the Papa Ruv told him, go upstairs. Just go upstairs. Don't ask questions. He said, but if I'm caught, then go upstairs. Went upstairs, he met a whole bunch of other boys like that. They were called Tomer and Elams. I think one was the Vision Rebbe. They stayed there for almost a year. So they once asked the Papa Rav, but really the halacha is that, you're putting everyone, he says, I can't throw people out to die. I can't do it. I can't, he said. So he describes, at the point where even the yeshiva had to close and run for their lives. So he wound up with certain connections, which just almost never happened. But he wound up approaching the partisans, and for whatever reason they took him. He was a big guy, and they took him. And he writes in this book just what he went through, and he walked in, and somebody came over to him, and he just ripped open his shirt. All the buttons went flying, and he goes, "Where's your lice?" He couldn't believe it. This is where I'm going to be. This is my life now. And they gave him a gun, and they taught him how to use it. And they pretty much told him they're going to use him as fodder against the Germans, but it wasn't much of a chance for survival, but it was better than, it was an almost death versus a regular death. And he describes the first time he went out on a mission to attack a German position. And on their way back, the freezing European winters, the ice had gotten into his boot, and his feet were frostbitten, and he couldn't walk anymore. He couldn't walk. He fell to the feet. And the next time he looked up, his partisans were holding a gun to his head. They said, well, we can't leave you here because if the Germans find you, they'll follow your track back to where we are. So either you come or we're shooting you. And they meant it. And he describes what went on over there. He describes years of ambushing Nazis, of being ambushed, being shot, being dragged away by Nazis, just what went on. To make a long story short, you can read the book. After the war, he shows up in Pressburg, and all the partisans they knew he was a partisan. There was a fear of the partisans. Even the Germans had a fear of the partisans. And he walked around with a big gun on him all along, and he did a lot to help Yidden. And every single day he stood by the train station, see if any of his family members will come off the train. And at one point he saw a man so emaciated, such a skeleton, mamish on 2 sticks, like his feet were 2 sticks. And he went over to him and he said, I gotta help this guy. Look what happened to them. And he starts approaching him, and he looks at him and he goes, Father? Tata? And the man says, Avramala? And the father faints into his arms. He winds up forcing him away into a hospital, taking him to the hospital. His father wound up surviving, lived till he's over 100 years old, to wherever he is. He always said that he stayed there. He was a big businessman, already in Pressburg, using his influence and power, which he saved a lot of Yidden. And his father told him, Avramala, go back to yeshiva. He said, I should go back to yeshiva. He was already running a huge operation. So the nice of the Pulper Ruf told him, if you're not up to it, just make sure to teach Torah every single day, V'rabim. That's what he would do. He would gather Yidden to teach Torah. He said later, yes, Charot, he didn't go back to the yeshiva. So one of the things that he did, he was a big developer, a very wealthy person. And he once told someone that until 35,000 brissen, he counted. Afterwards, he lost count. But there are records, because a lot of the bris he did in hospitals. There are people that have documented close to 50,000 bris that he did.
It's documented.
That's almost documented. No money. Not for money. It was mostly Russians and Yidden that had it.
That's only what's documented. There's probably a lot that's not.
That's right, right. After the Verrazano Bridge, he bought a whole section in Staten Island, and he built a huge thing where they was hoping Gideon would move out there, but it never worked out. But he had a house there, and Rabbanim used to come there to rest up. He had a mikveh in the house, and he would take them on a ride on the water. Now, eventually what had happened in the course of time, he developed an amazing... I remember watching him do a bris, and he would say, never had children. This is an important part of the story. And after each bris, he would say, he would say his own name, fischel. I heard him say it once by a bris taka for Russians. He developed an amazing relationship with the Rivnitzer Rebbe. A book just came out this year that he wrote about his experiences with the Rivnitzer Rebbe, mind-boggling Baal Shem Tov stories that he's saying firsthand. He often asked the Rebbe for kids. And the Rebbe explained to him, the Rebbe who also never had kids himself, explained it doesn't just work by waving a magic wand. And let me tell you that I personally know people that were born at that time. I remember as a bacher, he never had kids. He promised the kid would be a kid. But again, the Rebbe still has to give you the green light. The person's helped through a tzaddik. Tzaddik goes over Kadosh Baruch Hu L'Kaim. There still is, like the Kotzke once a day, which is also Baal Meifus. At the end, he decides. But this story, I won't even repeat it. I'm repeating it because they said it on Kol V'Vasser, so it's not private, obviously. But he said there were times the Rivnitzer Rebbe said, I'm going to try. Come to me for Shabbos. Even though they were so close, you can't imagine. He once said that the Rivnitzer put his head on him and opened his eyes and revealed to him things that he could never imagine. He told him things about himself from the first second he was born and why he went through everything in his life. He said he could swear the Rivnitzer said to him things that nobody in the world could have known. He said, I can't reveal to you what he said and what he told. The Rivnitzer told him about the future as well, about what's coming. He said, I'll never reveal it to the day I die. He started Achnasa Sefer Torahs with music. That was his thing. Because he came out, he thought there was a Levaya. He said, where's the Aron? Not Aron, it's a Sefer Torah. He said, what? This Achnasa Sefer Torah? He's then hired musicians. That whole thing he started. He wrote a Sefer on Bris Milah. He was a very big Machshav Torah. Long before the days of Dirshu, he had a system where he paid $35,000 if someone hired himself on a certain amount. Still right?
Still has everything.
Karen Avram, it's called, right?
I think in Tishu, some Sefer.
Yeah, he was very close to the Matas of some Sefer, right?
Give a lot of money to the lights.
Unbelievable Baal Tzedakah and Machshav Torah. But listen to this story, it is mind-boggling. The Rivnitzer told him once, maybe there's an opportunity now. I want you to make Achnasa Sefer Torah. I only want you to invite 10 people. Do not allow an 11th person in. He made Achnasa Sefer Torah. They sat down to the Suda. There's a knock on the door. And he goes to the door, and there's a next-door neighbor there. And the man says, please let me into the Rebbe. My son is married for 14 years. He has no children. Please let me go to the Rebbe. He says, I can't let you in. And the man says, well, the Rebbe's right here. You're not letting me in. He says, I knew I wasn't supposed to let him in. I couldn't say no. I couldn't. And he came in. I said, just stay there. And this father, imagine the pain of his child. He runs over to the Rebbe and starts crying. And he walks out. And the Rebbe says to him, what did you do? You know I can't say no to people. I had to give away the child. They never had children afterwards. Now, that's not the amazing part of the story. Because again, what was meant to be was meant to be. This Avram Cohn said he was the moil to this baby that was born 9 months later. He was the moil to the next generation. Maybe even a generation afterwards. Somebody asked him, but you don't feel bad? Look what happened. He goes, feel bad? No. I felt so close to them. I felt this is my child. I wanted to give them everything in the world. Wanted to give them everything in the world? We would say strangle the guy, right? No one really did anything wrong. No, I wanted to give them everything in the world. I felt this is mine. Do you understand? The heart that opened the door to start with. Why did you open the door? The Rebbe told you. Why did you open the door? Now you think about this story, Rabbi Sack. What's our excuse to be upset with people? If he wouldn't have been there, what does he think I get? No way, you're not getting in that way. I'm not telling people to give things away. He should be a Neilitz Yosher for all of Klal Yisrael. But if we're not going to be moichel each other, if not now, when? If not now, when? So, Rav Moshe says an interesting thing. What was the Avodah Zarah of the Mitzrayim? A tleh, sheep. You know why? Because the sheep is like the victim, sheep to the slaughter. The Mitzrayim, this was part of their avodah. They love to victimize themselves. We're a victim. The Jews are going to kill us. The Jews are this. The Jews are that. A lot of people like to live in victimization. I'm not saying that there aren't victims. Don't get me wrong. But that they like to live in it. So he says, this is our avodah. Our avodah is, whatever's meant to be is meant to be. Does Hashem want us to rethink relationships? Of course He does. Of course He does. So I was just thinking, we mentioned last time, take out a book and write down 10 of your worries. Write down 10 of your worries. And hold it next to you by your every day rewrite it again and again. You're going to see it's going to change because we don't really know what to worry about. Take it out with your heart, put it onto the thing. So let me give you some more advice now, okay? Take a piece of paper and write down 10 things that you have hakaras hatov to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for. Because when we're really thankful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're not so angry. It's easy for us to be Michael. I am sure each and every human being now, especially if you have too much time to think in your home, you can sit down and make a list of 100 things that you are so angry about. Whenever it's my chance, he comes around and grabs it from under. Relax. Everything is bashgacha pratis. Sit down and when you're angry at someone, sit down, write some good miles about that person. You're angry at a family member, you're angry at your husband, angry at your wife. Sit down and write 10 things, miles that the person has. Write 10 things that you are thankful for. Put it down. Do me a favor. As soon as you finish the sheet, open up a paper, write down 10 things in my life I want to reflect that I am thankful for. Think about other people's sorrows and just say to myself, okay, Hashem, thank you. The Al Shach HaKadosh says, Hashem has a minhag. We say it all the time. Maishi, what's Hashem's minhag? The more you thank Him for, the more He gives you. The more He gives you. The more He gives you. So, there's a tremendous skula for Ashiras, for bracha. What's the skula? Skula is to bench with simcha. It's Rosh Chodesh tonight, right? You're going to wash, you're going to bench. Bench slowly with kavana. Anyway, there's the Indian of the Meya Brachas. Bench slowly with kavana. Says the Zohar HaKadosh, Man de mevarach leKadosh Baruch Hu. If you bench Hashem feeling full, and you apply your heart, and you're really thankful to Hashem for what you have, that is a skula to become rich. If you're going to bench b'simcha u'b'kol ram. Svar Makdashim say a remez, Birchas Hashem tashir v'la yosef atzev. The bracha of Hashem will give a shiras if you do your best. V'la yosef atzev. You're not going to walk around depressed. I'm not saying you should let people step on you. But I'm just saying in terms of the past. What happened, happened. Pick up your life and move with it. It says in the Sefer HaChinuch, in Parshas Ekev, I have a Kabbalah from my Rebbeim. Yishmerim Keil. Shekol HaZoyer b'Birchas HaMazon. If you're careful with Birchas HaMazon and you thank Hashem from the bottom of your heart, there's a nice of Mitzion life. Forget about what's going on in the world now. Forget the stock market. Forget the Democrats and the Republicans. And forget the deficit. And forget the recession. If you're thankful to Hashem for what you have, says the Chinuch, I am a Kabbalah for my Rebbeim. Yishmerim Keil. Shekol HaZoyer b'Birchas HaMazon is a nice of Mitzion life. I was once by a Hinikel from Rabbi Yaakov. Rabbi Yaakov had a special, we have to ask you also about this. Rabbi Yaakov had a special nigun. He wanted his family to sing by Birchas HaMazon. It wasn't the standard Baruch Atah Hashem. It was to say it with a nigun, say it with a simcha. So I know what's going to happen. This year is going to close, and I'm going to get a call. Can't get an email because I don't have a computer in the house, but I'm going to get a call. Oh, now, Parnas is the issue? Everything is money? Don't you think we have bigger problems right now than money? Oh, someone's going to say that, so I may as well act it out beforehand. So my answer to you is like this. So they once came, we'll conclude with this. They once came to the Heilige Barditcheva, and they said to the Barditcheva, what should we do? Someone is not well in the Barditcheva. Tried, he davened the whole night. He said, it's closed, the Shari Refuah closed. Then he said, of course, it's also a Heilige of Dashgach and Shemaim. He said, wait, let me think. And he turns around, comes in, it comes out, now we'll have Yeshua. The man had Yeshua, so they asked the Barditcheva, what happened? So he said, I saw the Shari Refuah were closed. But all of a sudden, I looked into the Shari Parnasa. I said it was Mashiach for him to have Parnasa. So I said, Moshe, will you give me Parnasa to dead people? It's Mashiach for him to have Parnasa. You have to give him life to be able to take the Parnasa. Mar says in Masechtas Tainus, there once was a Megeifa, Rahman al-Islam for children. There was also a hunger, so they asked, they would have Geyser Tainus. What should there be Geyser Tainus for? You're only Geyser Tainus for one thing, not for two. So they said, you know what, we're going to be Geyser Tainus for the Parnasa. The Parnasa. Hey, let people die in the Megeifa? So the Gemara says, Man the Yoiv Mezayna L'chaya Yoiv. The Eibush that gives Parnasa gives it to live people, not to dead people. So we're going to come into the back alley. So I'm telling you, let's be Michael people. Let's try to find simcha in our life. Let's look for gratitude. Let's take on that the month of Nisan, every single benching, slowly with simcha and with nachas. And man de yoev mezayna, one who gives parnasa, l'chai yoev, will give it to those that are alive. Suras Titus.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.